Have you ever had the feeling that something good was happening around you, but that somehow you were left out? Not for lack of effort, not for lack of competence, but because a quiet, persistent part of you kept asking, could this really be for me? This is Virgo, not the cliché, not the person who rearranges the cutlery drawer when anxious or makes the spreadsheet when everyone else is improvising. This is Virgo at its most honest level. Someone who has worked so hard, built so much, analyzed so much, that they have learned, without realizing it, to be suspicious precisely when things start to work out the right way. And here's what I need to tell you before you decide whether to keep watching. This week, right now, in these days leading up to May 31st, the heavens have something specific in store for Virgo. Not generic, not the kind that applies to any sign in any week of the calendar. Something specifically addressed. And what's available to you during this period has everything to do with what you've built up most quietly and what you've most resisted letting in. The question this entire video attempts to answer is this: when fate finally delivers what Virgo deserves, does she manage to receive it? Stay. Because the answer will change how you look at this week. And maybe much more than that. Virgos don't believe in luck. Virgo's logic is precise, almost mathematical. The world makes sense when you understand the equation behind it. And the equation she internalized, that she tattooed within herself without realizing it, is this: nothing good comes for free. Everything of value was built. Everything that lasts was achieved through real effort. And look, this logic works. It worked very well. Virgo is the sign that knows exactly how much everything cost, that doesn't waste, that refines, that transforms work into art and routine into excellence. When everyone else is improvising, Virgo has already analyzed every possible variable and is 3 steps ahead. She doesn't ask for recognition for it. She does it because it's who she is. Because excellence for Virgo is not performance, it's identity. But there's something that this logic didn't prepare Virgo to do. To receive. Not receiving it from someone who reached out and waited, not receiving it from someone who remained passive, waiting for destiny to appear. This type of receiving is something Virgo has never practiced and never will practice. It's not who she is. The kind of receiving I'm talking about is different. It's that moment when the universe, destiny, the flow, call it what you will, reaches her not as a consolation prize, but as a direct consequence of everything she has already built. An opening that exists precisely because she worked for it, precisely because she prepared for it, precisely because she deserves it. And Virgo, at that moment, does what it always does. Analysis. Look for the angle that doesn't make sense. Check the consistency. Test the structure. Ask, why now? Why like this? Why me? What am I failing to see that I should be seeing? And while she's doing all this, while the most analytical intelligence of the zodiac is applied with all its might to the task of questioning her own luck, the moment sometimes slips, just a little. But enough so that, weeks later, Virgo feels that familiar sensation. Not regret exactly, more of a question, a quiet what if, that she mentally files away and carries for a while before transforming into, next time I'll pay more attention. And here we are. The next time has arrived. This week, right now, in these days leading up to May 31st, something has moved in the sky in a way that directly affects Virgo. Not in a generic way, not in the way that applies to any sign in any week of the year. In a specific, targeted way, almost surgically precise. And what destiny has in store has everything to do with what Virgo most fears acknowledging in herself. Because the effect of what's happening in the sky right now in Virgo is very concrete. It's that feeling that the uneven ground has become firm again. That something that seemed distant is suddenly within reach. Not just any reach, yours. But Virgo will need to notice this before questioning whether it's deserved. For once, they'll need to let perception come before analysis. Not forever. Virgo can't live without analysis, and doesn't need to. But this week, there's a different order of operations than what they're used to. First feel, then understand, and that's where the real challenge begins. Virgo's true challenge has never been out there. It has always been in here, in this silent space where she decides if what has arrived is real enough to be received. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. It doesn't ask you to abandon who you are. It doesn't tell you to stop analyzing, because for Virgo, that would be useless advice. It does something more precise. It shows you where, specifically, your analytical nature is working for you, and where it's working. It's like having a mirror that doesn't distort. For someone who has spent years refining every external aspect of their own life, this mirror is the missing tool. You are here now, still processing, with that feeling of recognition that bothers you in a good way, the kind of discomfort that Virgo knows how to recognize as truth. Don't wait for this discomfort to dissipate before acting. Acting now, while the process is active, is exactly what makes sense for someone who understands that the right moment rarely gives advance notice. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. Now tell me in the comments, lately, has an opportunity or connection come up that you've been analyzing for so long that it's passed, or is still under consideration? I want to know what's happening with you now. The sky doesn't speak the same way to everyone. This may seem obvious, but there's a layer to it that most people never really stop to understand. For some signs, cosmic cycles arrive like big waves, visible, noisy, impossible to ignore. Not for Virgo. The universe has learned to speak to her in the language she understands, with precision, with subtlety, with details that seem small until, suddenly, you realize they weren't small at all. This week, the dialogue between Heaven and Virgo is happening on several channels simultaneously. Mercury, the planet that rules Virgo, governing its mind, its communication, its ability to process and organize the world, is in a position that favors exactly the kind of clarity Virgo seeks, but rarely allows itself. It's as if, after a period in which the signals arrived scrambled, suddenly the signal became clear, sharp. And Virgo, which has always known how to listen when conditions were favorable, is in a privileged place to capture what is coming. The problem was never the ability to listen. It was the filter it puts in front of what it hears. But it's not just Mercury. There's an active Venusian energy that touches areas where Virgo historically has more resistance, receiving affection without analyzing its origin. Recognizing one's own worth without needing to justify it with a list of achievements. Allowing something to be good without already mentally preparing a contingency plan for when it ends. Venus doesn't ask Virgo to surrender. It asks her to seriously consider the possibility that good can be real. This combination, mental clarity and emotional openness at the same time, is rare for any sign. For Virgo, it's almost unique. And what comes through her is not random. There are 3 areas of Virgo's life where destiny is particularly active until May 31st. 3 open doors, and they all bear her name. The first is recognition, not fame, not the generic applause that anyone can give to anyone. Specific recognition, the kind that comes from the right person at the right time, for something Virgo did carefully, and that she thought no one had really noticed. It could come from a superior at work, from a life partner, from someone who came across something she created, organized, and who recognized the signature of her effort in it without her needing to point it out. Virgo will know when it arrives. The question is whether she will let it settle or will immediately look for the reason why this recognition might not be as genuine as it seems. The second area is connection. a relationship that already exists and has the potential to deepen in a way that Virgo didn't anticipate, or a new presence that arrives with a quality unlike anything she's used to. Not idealization, something more real, a resonance, someone who understands how Virgo thinks without her needing to explain. And Virgo, who has spent so much time explaining who she is to people who couldn't keep up, will feel this relief in a way that will be a little frightening. Because relief is uncharted territory for someone who has always needed to defend herself. The third area is health and routine, Virgo's most intimate territory. A change she was already considering, which the current moment unexpectedly favors. It could be a decision about her own body, a reorganization of habits, a clarity about what was consuming her energy in ways she hadn't yet named. 3 doors, 3 invitations, all with the same address. 3 open doors, and Virgo standing before them with that intensity so characteristic of her, assessing each one, measuring the cost of crossing. There is material created precisely for this moment. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose offers what Virgo needs now, not a map that decides for them, but a tool that sharpens their discernment. It separates productive analysis from the noise of self-criticism. For Virgo, who masters analysis but rarely applies it to themselves, this clarity is the difference between walking through the right door and forever remaining outside evaluating. This digital book is available for immediate access. However, availability is limited. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. Before crossing any of these thresholds, there's something that needs to be said about Virgo, something that Virgo herself rarely names with such clarity. Virgo's pursuit of perfection isn't vanity. It never was. It's something much older, a protective mechanism she developed at a time when showing imperfect work meant exposure. It meant being seen doing it wrong. It meant giving the world a chance to confirm what she feared was true, that she wasn't good enough. And so Virgo learned not to show it until she was ready. What worked? Most of the things Virgo delivers are extraordinary precisely because she waited. But there is a point, difficult to find from within, where waiting until ready becomes waiting forever with valid justification, where prudence and fear use the same language and Virgo can't distinguish which one is speaking. This week puts Virgo exactly at that point, because what's available to her now won't wait the time it would take her to feel completely ready. And the irony is that she'll never feel completely ready anyway. Not because something is missing, but because Virgo will always find another detail to refine, another better version that could exist. Imagine an extraordinary chef who refuses to serve the dish because he needs an ingredient that will arrive tomorrow. The guests are already seated. The dish is ready, more than ready. The missing ingredient is a detail that has become a necessary condition. Virgo knows this chef inside and out. The question that fate is silently posing to her this week is this: what are you waiting for to arrive that has already arrived? Because the opportunities until May 31st don't arrive perfect. They arrive real, and Virgo, in a place within herself that she rarely visits but that exists, knows that the real is more valuable than the perfect. She just needs to remember that at the exact moment it matters, which is now. This space between the real and the perfect is where Virgo most often gets lost, not because it is weak, but because its strength operates precisely in this zone. And that is where the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose acts most precisely. Not to say that the pursuit of excellence is wrong, it never is, but to help Virgo recognize when this pursuit is serving real growth and when it is serving fear disguised as growth. This distinction, seen from within, is almost invisible. Seen clearly, it changes everything Virgo decides to receive. Available now, with immediate access, for a limited time. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. Let me tell you what Virgos feel, but don't usually put into words. She feels a weariness that doesn't come from work. It comes from something different, from the constant need to analyze everything, organize everything, anticipate everything, and yet sometimes have the feeling that something important slipped through her fingers, not because she wasn't paying attention, but because she paid too much attention in the wrong place. It's not regret, it's more subtle. It's the longing for a moment you didn't fully experience because you were busy evaluating whether it was worth living. The conversation you didn't truly have because you were processing the implications of each sentence. Virgos know this feeling, even if they've never said it that way. And it is precisely in this tension between what she controls and what she has lost by controlling too much that the greatest gift of this week lies. Because what the heavens are offering Virgo until May 31st isn't a stroke of luck that will change everything overnight. It's a confirmation that she has built something real, that her effort hasn't been in vain, that what she is, not what she produces, but what she fundamentally is, has value, and that scares Virgo more than anything. Because she knows how to defend what she does. She has proof, she has results, she has a track record. But defending who she is, without a product, without performance, without justification, that's territory she's never explored. The fear that appears here is not the obvious one, it's the disguised one. The one that wears the clothes of prudence and speaks with the voice of reason. The fear that says, I'll analyze it a little more, when what she's feeling deep down in a layer she rarely visits is, what if I open this and it doesn't last? This week will invite Virgo to enter this uncharted territory, not all at once, in small, unmistakable gestures that will say, you can be here, you can receive this, you deserve exactly this moment, not a more perfect version of yourself. This, Virgo. Now. Fear disguised as prudence is one of Virgo's most sophisticated patterns. Precisely because it is sophisticated, she rarely recognizes it by its true name. It looks like care. It looks like responsibility. It looks like intelligence. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose exists to illuminate precisely this pattern, with precision and without judgment. Not to eliminate Virgo's caution, which is one of its most valuable assets, but to show with real clarity where caution ends and fear begins. This line, seen from within, is almost invisible. Viewed with the right mirror, it changes what Virgo chooses to receive and what it finally stops postponing. Immediate access, limited availability. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. How does Virgo do this in practice? Not in an abstract way, not at the level of believe in yourself that she heard many times and that never stuck because it's too vague for someone who needs precision. The answer begins with a distinction that seems simple but isn't. The difference between filtering and rejecting. Virgo is an extraordinary filter. She receives information, filters it internally, eliminates what has no substance, and keeps what has value. It's a genuine skill, rare, the kind of ability most people spend their lives trying to develop. But there's a specific moment when the filter changes function. It stops examining what has arrived and starts examining what could go wrong. And then it's not filtering. It's rejecting before even seeing it. The difference between the two seems small from the outside. From the inside, it's enormous. Filtering to improve is what Virgo does best. It's what makes her a precision instrument in chaos. But filtering to reject, to protect herself from something that hasn't happened yet, but that she's already decided could hurt. That's not Virgo's filter working well. That's Virgo's filter when she's afraid. This week, every time she finds herself analyzing an opportunity, a connection, a change that has arisen, it's worth stopping and asking herself a simple question. Am I examining what's here, or am I imagining the worst that could happen? This question alone can change what Virgo receives until May 31st. The filter is on, arms are open, both at the same time. That's how Virgo receives things. What destiny has in store for Virgo until May 31st was not placed there arbitrarily. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a directionless cosmic accident. Every element of this week, every encounter, every opening, every sign that will arrive in ways she will recognize, is connected to something she planted, to something she carefully cultivated over a period of time that only she knows how long it lasted, to something she cared for silently, without external recognition, without any guarantee of results, out of pure faith in the logic that honest effort eventually produces something real. And that eventually is happening now. Not with fanfare, not with irrefutable proof that eliminates all doubt before taking the next step. Virgo doesn't need absolute certainty. She only needs sufficient evidence that the ground is solid. And the ground is solid. More solid than she calculated. What she had built within herself over all this time, the ability to discern, the silent discipline, the attention to detail that no one asked her to have, but that she had because it is who she is, was not built in vain. It was built for this moment. So that when destiny opened the door, she would be ready in the way that matters. Not perfect. Ready. There is a huge difference between those two things, and Virgo, deep down in a place she rarely visits but which exists nonetheless, knows that difference. This week will ask her to honor that knowledge, to take a step towards what is being offered, not rushing, not without examining, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the work has been done, that she did her part, that what is coming is not an illusion that will fade away. It is the consequence of what she chose to be, day after day, even when no one was watching. Consequence is the most beautiful word that exists for Virgo, because she understands consequences. Consequences don't depend on blind faith. They don't demand faith without evidence. They don't require her to abandon who she is. Consequences are simply this: you planted, you nurtured, and what grew bears your signature. What destiny has in store for you until May 31st bears your signature. Receive this, with your eyes open, because you'll want to really see it. With the filter available if you need it, but with open arms too. Because Virgo's luck was never a chance occurrence that falls from the sky without warning. It was always the harvest of what was carefully planted, arriving exactly when it was ready to be received. Until May 31st, destiny is in your hands. Not because you asked for luck, because you never stopped deserving it.